Good evening and good to have you with us on the Urban Debate. Straight to the top story for the second straight day. Mera Now is following up on the Palakkad Rape and Death case. It's a story we believe deserves national attention. It's a story where grave injustice has happened to a family. A family that lost their 9-year-old and 13-year-old daughter just within a span of 2 months. But the police failed in proving their case. The police failed in providing evidence. Botch-up after botch-up, clearly pointing fingers that this case could have worked. But the police showed zero interest. Now, the former prosecutor of this case, who worked on this case for 3 months, has also spoken out. And we're going to be speaking to her in just a bit to highlight to you and to find out whether it was simply a shoddy probe or was there a cover-up at play. Remember, in this case, this crime that took place in 2017, the accused are allegedly linked politically to the local political party there. And questions are being raised. If there was a cover-up, if there was an intentional botch-up to protect these accused. The only question I have tonight is, was the state and the state government conniving with the accused in this case to derail justice? First up, let's go across to Shilpa, who's been tracking this story for us, joining us live from Palakkad. Shilpa, what is the latest development? Has there been any official response from the state on whether they will order a retrial or simply, appeal against this order?
Well, today, the parents of the two Walayar victims met Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan in Trivandrum. Both the father and mother met the Chief Minister there, and their meeting lasted around 20 minutes. And during that meeting, the parents, of course, told the Chief Minister that they want a CBI probe into this matter because they want an independent and fair probe so that their daughters can get justice, and all those people who are responsible for their death can be punished. But the Chief Minister, of course, gave them all the support and said that the government is firmly behind them and saying that they will, of course, do all that is required to bring these people to book, and also saying that if at all the parents go ahead and file an application in the court saying that they want a CBI probe, then the government will not oppose it. So that is the stand that has been taken by the government so far, that they will appeal against the POCSO court verdict here that that the Palakkad court had given in the Kerala High Court. And when it comes to the CBI probe, if the parents go ahead and file an application in the court saying that they want an investigation by the CBI, then the government will not oppose it. So that is the official stand the left government here has taken as far as this case is concerned.
But, okay, let's talk about some of the other basics here then, Shilpa. Hasn't the family already said that they want a CBI probe? So, what is the government waiting for? And have they clarified on the fact that they appointed a man who was the lawyer for the accused, and they appointed him as the chairperson of the CWC, the Child Welfare Committee, who then went and gave a statement in the very same trial?
Well, that's right, Tanvi. And in fact, what the CPM is saying is that once we realized that this man, N. Rajesh, who was appointed as a CWC chairman, had appeared for one of the accused in the Walayar case, he was immediately removed. So that is the justification coming in from the government side. But that is not enough, because this man, N. Rajesh, has been representing Praveen, who is one of the accused in the case. And he has attended several court hearings. And after that only was he appointed as the CWC chairman, and this was brought to light by several people here, and in fact some ministers from the LDF government itself pointed fingers and said this is not acceptable because this man has represented an accused in the case, and now he is sitting as a chairperson of the Child Welfare Committee in Palakkad. So that is the reason why the left government, of course, took action and suspended him, but that does not absolve them of the fact that a man of this, a man who defended someone like a rape accused was given the post of the CWC chairman.
All right, Shweta, constantly tracking this big story for us. There was also a protest earlier in the evening. Obviously, there is a lot of outrage in Kerala and many other parts of the country of people who are tracking this case with the way there has been injustice done. Let's say good evening to Dhanya Rajendran, editor of the News Minute, E. Krishnadas, Palakkad District President for the BJP. I also have Aniket Nikam, criminal lawyer with the Bombay High Court, Ramakant Gaur, senior lawyer with the Supreme Court. But first up, I actually want to go across to Mr. M.B. Rajesh, former member of the Parliament and of CPIM. Mr. Rajesh, a man who was the lawyer for the accused in this case is then made the Child Welfare Committee chairperson by our government. And he goes back and becomes, and gives a statement in this trial. Doesn't this prove that the government was in connivance with the accused?
No, that doesn't prove that the government was in connivance with the accused, but it was a serious lapse. And he, while applying for the post of CWC chairman, he misled the government and he misrepresented the fact that he is appearing for accused in POCSO case. Immediately, this was brought to the notice of the government. The government conducted an inquiry and he was immediately removed. Yes, I admit that he should not have been made chairman of the CWC. And let me also point out that the government, from the very beginning, had taken a serious interest in carrying forward this case, because when there was allegation against the sub-inspector of police that there is lapses on his part in investigation, he was immediately suspended, and department level inquiry was conducted and taken action against him. Then the government handed over the case to a team led by a women IPS officer. A young woman IPS officer was appointed as the chief of the investigation team. So the government had taken all measures in ensuring a fair and fair investigation.
So, but obviously, Mr. Rajesh, whatever these steps are that you're talking about that the government took to ensure a fair investigation haven't happened. And I find it very, very difficult to accept what you're telling me tonight, that the government didn't know what this man's background was. Because once he was made the Child Welfare Committee chairperson, he actually, in that authority, went back and gave statement in this trial. And this issue was raised by the prosecutor at that point of time. So how is it that the government is turning around today and telling us you didn't know anything?
That is what I said. When this was raised, this point was raised and this was not brought to the notice of the government. Government conducted an inquiry, and the Social Justice Minister had indicated this in a reply in State Assembly. That's on record. The Social Justice Minister had indicated that an inquiry is going on. The government is looking into the allegation that he is appearing for accused in POCSO cases. Then, after the inquiry, he was removed.
Okay, let me actually go across to Jalaja Madhavan, who worked on this case as a prosecutor for about 3 months. Jalaja Madhavan, good evening and thank you for joining us. The big question we are asking tonight is if the police lapses, if the police investigation was just a shoddy probe, or was it a cover-up? Now, you worked on this case. Please tell us what you saw and what you noticed in the investigation.
I worked up this case only for 3 months. And at the time of the first perusal of the case, I found it that the crucial evidences are missing and it is not properly charged. The charge sheet was not properly prepared. But by the time of my entry, at the time of my entry into the case has slipped off my hand.
May I understand why that happened, Ms. Madhavan? Why were you on this case for such a short period of time?
I was terminated. I was told that I am terminated for various reasons, and no reasons were stated to me till this moment.
Can you shed some light on this question that we are asking the government tonight? How is it that a man who was defending the child rape accused in this case was appointed as the Child Welfare Committee chairperson and was still very closely linked to this case? Did you ever raise this issue with the government?
PwC chairman was appearing.
Yes.
There was an inquiry conducted in this matter. There came some news came in some channels, including Madhubhumi and Janam TV channels regarding this issue, and an inquiry was conducted. Inquiry taken place, and I given my statement. That after giving statement, I was removed from the post.
What was your statement, Ms. Madhavan?
I told the truth. He has taken evidence into 2 days, and I stated the truth. And moreover, some documentary evidences were there, some computer printouts, and I was asked to take a certified copy of that computer printout. And I applied for the computer printout, and 2 days after that, I got an order stating that I'm removed for various reasons. I'm terminated for various reasons.
There are allegations that are being made tonight that because of the political connections of the accused, the police deliberately botched up this case. When you were studying the case and the investigation that was presented by the police to you, did you feel that there was an intentional attempt to not give evidence?
I don't know about the political interference, but on perusal of the documents, I felt that the case was very weak. And at first, there was the death of a 9-year-old girl. And at that time, even the elder girl, 13 years old child, in the case of the death of the elder sister.
Yes.
Despite of the mention of anal injury of a 13-year-old girl, the police have not considered the possibility of a sexual assault on her. A 13-year-old, the postmortem says there was anal injuries, and even then the police have not considered the possibility of a sexual assault. It was very strange. With a common sense, we should have gone into that aspect, and an inquiry must have conducted into that aspect. So the sexual assault on her, the possibility of sexual assault on her was not considered properly.
And I have a follow-up question. If that aspect was
considered properly and proper investigation has been taken place at that time, we could have saved the younger child.
And I have a follow-up question, because from what I studied about this case, the younger one, 9-year-old, who was found dead 2 months later, she claimed to have seen two men exiting the house, and then and after that the 13-year-old's dead body was found. Did the police at no time then probe the murder angle at all?
I saw that statement. Yes, I saw that statement in the police diary. Pardon?
Did the police not probe the murder angle at all?
I saw such a statement in the police diary.
Yes. So why was there no murder charge?
No, police has not ruled out the possibility of a homicide. Even in the postmortem of the younger child, the doctor stated the possibility of a homicide, and even that aspect was not considered in the second case also. The postmortem was conducted by Dr. Gujral, and he has stated the possibility of a homicide in the postmortem report itself. And even then, that aspect was not considered by the investigating officer. Okay. That possibility was not ruled out.
Please stay on with me, because I want Mr. M.B. Rajesh I want Mr. M.B. Rajesh to respond on what has been highlighted here by somebody who's worked on this case and seen what the police submitted. Mr. Rajesh, why should these police officials, these investigators, not face an inquiry? Why have you not ordered an inquiry against these policemen?
Yes, the Chief Minister has stated in the State Assembly, the session is going on, in the State Assembly that the government will look into the lapses made by both the police and prosecution. Yes, now it is evident that there have been lapses on the part of both police and prosecution, and the government is now looking into that. The DGP, Director General of Prosecutions, is looking into the lapses made by the prosecutor. Yes, there has been serious allegations have been raised against the prosecutor. Now the government is looking into that. In the same manner, what are the lapses committed by the police officials? That is also being investigated now.
Okay, let me bring in Ramakant Gaur at this point of time, and then I'll go across to our other panelists. Ramakant Gaur, You know, if we're just bringing out point by point, you've gone through the verdict. It's very, very apparent that this was a deliberate attempt. Should these investigators not have been pulled up by now?
Tanvi, apart from this very fact, a blatant lie is being told on the national television. Learned prosecutor is saying that the homicide angle was also there and it was not investigated, though it was there in the case diary. May I ask learned prosecutor to look at the first page of the judgment, which shows that the charge under section 302 or 304 was never framed. So if she is saying that this angle was looked into, it might have been looked into by her or by the policemen in their respective offices. It was not placed before the court. So this is a lie which is being told on the national television. Secondly, she is trying to shift the onus onto the police and investigating authorities. She did not conduct, with all great respect towards her, I must say that she did not conduct the trial properly and in the pragmatic perspective. If she found, on the first reading, if she found that the post-mortem report is faulty, she would have requested for the constitution of a medical board and no court would have disallowed. It's a very fact which is missing.
So
medical board was not constituted, post-mortem report was not looked into.
Well, Jalaja Madhavan was actually
30 seconds more.
The public prosecutor for 3 months, but I will ask her to respond to what you're saying. Yes, go ahead, please.
I was appointed as the prosecutor in this year, 2019. The case was started in 2017 and I was appointed as the prosecutor in 2019, March 8th. By that time, major witnesses, even the major witnesses have been examined. And I was, I have to examine only some it's an investigating officer, of course, in one case, one investigating officer, and after that I was removed. I worked there for only 3 months. And at that time, I realized that on such a charge sheet, this case, the result will be like, the result would have turned up like this. So
Tanvi, can I comment?
I talked about a further investigation at that time, but nobody responded, and before that I was removed.
Yes, Aniket,
and for further investigation, it is the duty of the police officer, the investigating officer, to apply for a further investigation.
Aniket Nikam, go ahead, please.
It's not me
Tanvi,
who conducted the case for the whole period.
Over here,
I was
that
there
even
only
before,
for 3 months.
Even before the charge was framed,
yes,
what I'm given to understand is that in this case, charge sheet was filed only for offence under 306, 376, which is rape, 377, unnatural sex, and under the other offences as provided under the provisions of POCSO. Now, when the police itself, after investigating the crime, came to a conclusion that this was not a case of homicide or murder, but a case of abetment to suicide, naturally the court must have framed the charge for offences under 306. Now, it was the bounden duty of prosecution, rather the police, to bring out full facts before the court. Now, since this case was based not on any version of any eyewitnesses, but primarily on the case was resting on circumstantial evidence, it was primarily very important for the police and for the investigating officer to connect all the links of this crime in order to prove and show that it was the accused alone who are responsible for this act and no other theory is plausible apart from what the police are saying. Now, perhaps it seems that the investigation was shoddy. Whether it was done intentionally or not, I cannot comment upon it.
Right.
But because there were so many loopholes in the investigation, the benefit of doubt was given to the accused, because of which they came to be acquitted. Now, I am also given to understand that 2 important eyewitnesses turned hostile.
Yes.
Now, why they turned hostile, why enough protection was not given to them, I do not understand. But of course, at the end of it, it is the job of investigating officer, it is the job of the police agency to ensure that the trial is going on smoothly to ensure that witnesses are well protected, they don't turn hostile, and at the same time, when the case is resting on circumstantial evidence, they have to connect all the dots in order to lead to only one inference, which is the guilt of the accused, which perhaps they have failed to do so in this case.
Okay, let me also go across to Dhanya Rajendran. She and her team have also been constantly tracking this story. Dhanya, again and again, the political link aspect comes out. Even if you look at N. Rajesh, we are told he is a CPM sympathizer. He was an SFI leader. Obviously, without any background check, he was made the Child Welfare Committee head. What have your own, investigation and reportage shown? Was this investigation a deliberate botch-up or simply a result of callousness?
I think it's definitely a combination of the two. Now, if I can just tell the viewers that there are 4 judgments in this, of which only 2 have come out. The 2 judgments which are already out is for the accused Pradeep Kumar in the case of the elder child and the younger child. The 3 main accused in the case, V. Madhu, one more Madhu and Shibu, the 2 judgments are not out in those cases. Now, it's in those cases that the younger child's statement of 2 men running out, we do not know if it was even included. So we really have to wait for those 2 judgments to come out. We are hoping that those judgments will come out at least tomorrow. Now, coming back to Pradeep's judgments, which we have a copy of with us, the second judgment, which is the younger child's death, the judge in fact notes clearly that there was a cot and there was a chair inside the shed where the child was found dead. She could have used either of these things to commit suicide, but the investigating officer has not looked into these aspects. Then the judge goes on to say that yes, the investigating officer has not looked into these aspects, but that is not reason enough to actually set aside all the prosecution witnesses, including the mother and the father, who said that it was a case of suicide. So this is the whole thing. Some people go inside the room, they discover this child's dead body. All of them have assumed it's a case of suicide, and that's what they tell the police. The police go with the same assumption to the court, and they have not even investigated whether it's a case of homicide. The judge says, look, with the evidence that has been given to me, it looks like a case of suicide because I have not been given any other evidence. So my question to the Kerala government is, if you cannot reinvestigate on the current case, why don't you open a new case of homicide, or why don't you reinvestigate the section of homicide, which has not been introduced into either of these cases?
Mr. Rajesh, please respond to that. Why not open a fresh investigation?
Yeah, see, the government has not said that the government is not going to investigate the case. The government is exploring all possibilities, including the angle which now Dhanya pointed out, to reopen the case, to reinvestigate, and if a retrial is possible, the government is exploring all possibilities. The Chief Minister has said that whatever can be done, whether a reinvestigation or a further investigation or a retrial, even a CBI inquiry is not ruled out. The government is even for
So
CBI
what are
inquiry.
you waiting for, and how long will the government take to come to a decision of any sort?
The government has already taken a decision to move the court.
Because the judgment copy has not come.
Made it clear that the government has decided to move the
Tanvi,
court.
why was this case not approached with utmost seriousness when the crime was noticed? At this belated stage, I have my own doubts whether they will be able to gather any sufficient evidence, because there will be no scientific evidence available now. They'll only have to see, maybe take a look at whatever is being collected already. So if they would have shown alacrity and swiftness in conducting this investigation in a fair, impartial manner at the nascent stage itself, perhaps we would have seen a different verdict today.
Dhanya, you wanted to add to that? Go ahead, please.
And not only that, let me add, there is no scientific evidence in the... Yes, see, there is no scientific evidence in this case. There is no DNA material, any unidentified particles. There is absolutely no scientific evidence. What could have been a crucial point in this case is what the younger child saw. Now, it's not only the fact that the younger child saw 2 men running out, or rather her parents are now telling us that she did see. If she did see, where did that statement go? I've spoken to the lawyers of the accused. They are saying no such statement was presented before the court. So if the younger child had made that statement, where did that disappear to? The second question that we should ask here is that We know now that the younger child herself was subjected to sexual assault. That's something that the police surgeon has clearly said in her post-mortem report. Now, Tanvi, this is what our policing system lacks. If a child, we believe, has been sexually assaulted, and if there is a sibling, our policing system, nothing is sensitive enough to make that child sit down, try and explain to him and her, and make them talk. I can really imagine a police constable going there and asking the child, did you see anything? The child would have said no, or perhaps yes, and no one took that child seriously.
Yes.
So we do not have sensitive systems to actually talk to children to make sure they tell us what is happening.
Yeah, I mean, just to reiterate the point that you made, everybody simply went ahead with the theory that a 9-year-old killed herself, and they didn't even bother to look into what else could have happened if somebody actually killed her, hung her, attacked her. A 9-year-old, we are being told, committed suicide. And nobody, that entire investigation team, did not bother to explore any other angle. Mr. Krishnadas, you've heard everybody out here. Do you believe that this was a deliberate botch-up?
Tanvi, I have reasons to believe that this is a deliberate botched-up case. Because after the death of the first child, some people were rounded up by the police. But they were released from the police station by the leaders of the ruling CPM. This fact is not, this is not a fact stated by any BJP leader or any opposition leader. But this is a fact which is stated by the ward councillor, where the house is situated, who is a CPM member. Then there is one Abbas, who is the fifth witness in this case. He says he is a CPM worker. He had received a summons. He went to the court. He was not examined at all. And he says that the local leaders were the ones who got the accused released after the first death. Then the mother says that it was the CPM local leaders who got the accused released from the police station in the first instance. Here, what is to be noted is that if the police had acted in the first instance itself, the second child could have been saved.
Yes.
If the social welfare department had acted in the right manner, this 9-year-old could have been saved.
Yes.
If the governmental department had acted swiftly, this 9-year-old would not have the mysterious death of this 9-year-old would not have happened. So it is a clearly botched up case where there is a political conspiracy. The CPM local leaders have conspired. They have got the accused released. And the biggest conspiracy was wherein it happened in the court, where the leader of the All India Lawyers Union, former SFI leader, the Lawyers Union leader, which is an affiliate of the CPM, Mr. Rajesh, he appeared for the accused, and he was appointed as the CWC chairman. And the best
But Mr. Krishnadas, here is the state government telling us that they didn't know what his background was, that he had actually ever appeared in this case.
You may kindly verify in all 14 districts in Kerala, the appointments, the CWC chairman are local party leaders. They have flouted the Juvenile Justice Act. The rules were not followed. Any Tom, Dick and Harry having a CPM card could become the chairman of the CWC. That is the biggest blotch up in this case. And this man, he appeared for the accused in this case.
Yes.
And the best part was that, may I just finish this?
And you know, tonight, Mr. M.B. Rajesh is telling us that this was a lapse and nothing intentional. But even if you say this was a lapse, it's a bigger concern. Is the state government telling us, Mr. Krishnadas and Mr. M.B. Rajesh, that such crucial appointments, chairperson of the Child Welfare Committee, are being appointed without any due diligence? That a man who appeared for accused in a child rape and death case was made the CWC head, went back as the CWC head and gave statements, is politically linked to the CPM, and the state government didn't realize all of this, then what good is your system? And why are we putting lives and futures of little children in the hands of such people. Child Welfare Committee is not a joke. And if this is your way of finding and appointing people, then we have bigger concerns. So this is what the state government needs to do. If they want to prove to us that this was not an intentional cover-up to help the accused, order a reinvestigation, open up the case again, investigate it fresh. Even if you decide to appeal the current order, there has to be a fresh investigation, and order an inquiry and suspend the cops who investigated this case in the first place. Crucial evidence may have been lost forever. People must be held accountable. A 9-year-old could have been saved, but we failed her. A 13-year-old is dead. We never bothered to find out if she was sexually assaulted, if she was murdered. Shameful what has been done in this case. Thank you so much for joining us on this big story. Here is the other big story on the urban debate tonight. The issue of air passenger safety, the issue of your safety every time you take a flight. Domestic carriers IndiGo and GoAir have been operating some of their flights with faulty engines. Yes, once again we are raising the issue of A320 Neo aircraft that have these P&W engines that clearly have some kind of a problem. The aviation regulator, DGCA, has finally woken up and flagged this issue, but they still keep giving the long rope to these airlines. They still keep extending the deadlines to these air carriers to replace these faulty engines, and I don't understand why. What is the point in giving an extension? What is the point in telling an airline that you can continue flying a faulty engine aircraft, a faulty plane, to put simply, while you get a replacement engine? What are we waiting for? 200 people to be killed in a crash? Are we genuinely waiting for a mishap to take stricter steps? Mirror Now is repeatedly highlighting this issue because we believe it is unacceptable that the deadline to IndiGo and GoAir has been extended. Why should these unsafe planes be in the air for 15 more days? Yesterday, a Kolkata-Pune flight returned to Kolkata after a snag developed in the engine of the flight. Pilot received a caution message during takeoff, forcing the flight to return to Kolkata. Which is why we are asking again, why give a 15-day gap? On October 26, a similar incident took place on a Mumbai-Coimbatore flight that had to come back to Mumbai after it experienced heavy vibrations mid-air. The low-pressure turbine blades were damaged in this case. The plane had a flying history of 2,372 hours. On October 24th, a Delhi-Goa flight experienced heavy vibrations in a similar pattern and had to get back to Delhi. On October 24th, there was another flight, Kolkata-Chennai flight, that developed a technical snag while climbing 27,000 feet. The plane's engine shut down automatically during the flight, creating panic, obviously, amongst the passengers and the crew. Instance after instance. Why should passengers take the risk of flying for the next 15 days? Should the government not intervene? Let's say good evening to Captain Mohan Ranganathan, former instructor, airline pilot, Captain S.S. Panesar, former Director for Flight Safety and Training at Indian Airlines and an aviation expert, and Vishwas Pathak, spokesperson for the BJP. So let me begin with Captain Ranganathan and ask him if he believes that the government needs to intervene, because the DGCA obviously seems to be giving, a long rope to these airlines.
To start with, the 15-day time limit which DGCA has given is actually a mockery. Now, if you are permitting an aircraft with 2 defective engines, hoping that both of them don't fail, that's actually taking a big chance. But what you have to think very seriously is there are 16 IndiGo aircrafts and 13 GoAir aircraft. That's 29. So you're looking at 29 engines in 2 weeks is impossible. So definitely the DGCA will give them a waiver, an extension. And meanwhile, already we've had 2 engine failures on IndiGo aircrafts. So there's going to be another half a dozen before the 15 days are up. And you're not going to get the engines. And unfortunately, our judiciary is absolutely ignorant of aviation safety. I've been pointing this out ever since that Mangalore crash. They are just turning a blind eye. If we had a judicial system like we have in US, they would have taken the airline and DGCA to the cleaners. And that's what we need, hold them accountable. If in the 15 days, if there is a fatal accident, hold the DGCA culpable of homicide. That is the only way you can set right the system.
No, so I am right now looking at this, latest information that's come, and this this is the DGCA that has warned Pratt and Whitney to act quick on replacing engines. And they had a meeting today with PNW where the DGCA said that they must quickly bring in these replacement for 16 for IndiGo, 13 for GoAir within 15 days. But I don't understand, Captain Panesar, why should these aircrafts be flying for the next 15 days? Is the entire aviation sector going to collapse? What could possibly be the excuse for risking lives of hundreds of passengers?
See, let me tell you, enough debates have taken place and nobody is coming forward. This DGCA giving 15 days limit, they must have consulted some astrologer. Then nothing will good happen. It is the high time now the Ministry of Civilization should come forward. Let the Honorable Minister take the responsibility that in next 15 days no engine will fail, or Pratt and Whitney will be held responsible, or the government will be held responsible for the innocent people who are traveling on this airline with defective engines. There are so many failures in one engine. Either blades are breaking off, gearbox is going off, seals are breaking, smoke is coming. There's not one snag. And it's happening for the last 2.5 years. More than 100 engines have failed. What are we waiting for a catastrophe? The DGCA does not have one single expert to establish the cause of these incidents. They are independent of what PNW says. Now, our even present DGCA, with due apologies, he is a bureaucrat. He is not aviation minded. He has to understand the seriousness of the case. Whatever is down below, they're telling him, and he's accepting all the statements. It is high time we should have experts either from other countries, NTSB people should be called in and investigate these incidents, how these engines are failing. Why Pratt and Whitney has not been made accountable till today? There is a big connivance between the airline, PNW, DGCA, and the ministry. It is required. Had it been Indian and Air India aircraft, they would have immediately grounded it.
Oh, yes. Let me ask that question to Mr. Vishwas Pathak. Mr. Vishwas Pathak, is the profitability of these airlines more important than the lives of people?
Certainly not. I also, as a citizen, I would like to have this DGCA circular to take effect from yesterday. Why 15 days? But I think there could be certain issues like, this Pratt and Whitney as a world-class engine manufacturer, other than GE and Rolls and Royce and all that thing. So they are working on those engines. The reports which we have received is that they have rectified the problem of combustion and other problems of gear and the other things are also being rectified. I think DGCA is a very old organization and safety, air safety and airworthiness is their prime responsibility. I think they would have assessed the situation, and those who have flown for more than 2,900 hours, those flights needs to replace their engine, at least one engine is the mandate given by DGCA. I think they are rectifying these all flights, 15 of IndiGo and 13 of GoAir. And probably many of them would not fly also till the engines are replaced.
But now that's not happening. That's the problem.
PNW, they
Mr.
are working
Pathak, that's
together
exactly
closely.
the problem. Like you said, you would want these planes grounded as of yesterday, but they are not. They are flying. There was another incident yesterday after DGCA's 15-day deadline. Which airline is going to, by themselves ground these aircraft and lose business? Is the regulator and the government whose responsibility it is to ensure that until we replace the engines or find out what's wrong with them, we don't allow them to fly?
Well, if you permit me,
No, I
I can
fully
tell
agree,
you.
but there would be some practicability also.
Practicality of what, Mr. Pathak?
Yeah.
I can't imagine anything else except that there is a nexus between the engine manufacturer, the aircraft manufacturer, the airline, the regulator, the government.
No, anyways, all these flights of A320 due are flying for last 2 years. They must be observing closely, and there could be some notice required to be given to rectify those flights while mitigating risk also. I think DGCA is pretty old organization. They are responsible and they know what they are doing. And why 15 days? It could have been rectified also within the next 3-4 days.
They are doing.
No, this is not the first time the issue has cropped up. Even from the Modi government's first tenure, the aviation ministry has been in conversation. I don't understand why steps have not been taken and deadlines keep getting extended. Both of our experts have points to make. I'll first go to Captain Ranganathan and then Captain Panesar. Captain Ranganathan, go ahead, please.
See, what they forget, he's saying about practicality. Let me give you an example when the Dreamliner battery fire incident took place. ANA in Japan grounded the entire fleet even before FAA or the local authorities grounded because they considered passenger safety as paramount. Here people keep talking that, the airlines will say safety is paramount. But what people forget, apart from the fact that the frequency of the engine failures, the world average is 1 a month. Here we are having 1 a week. And of late, it has been almost 1 a day.
Yes.
And that is not acceptable. And so now what people forget is also the stress factor of the pilots. Because every time you're going for a flight, you're thinking in your mind that you're going to have an engine failure. That doesn't happen so often. So with the fatigue factor and the stress factor, errors are bound to crop up. And when you look at the experience level of pilots, most of them, especially the co-pilots, hardly have any experience. So when you have low time, if DGCA wants to be careful, let them issue an order that NEOs cannot be flown by any flight where the captain has less than 3,000 hours of command and co-pilot with 1,000 hours. Then make it safer. When you put green horns into the cockpit with a dangerous aircraft, you're actually risking lives. So if you want to be practical, do like what they did in US for Colgan crash. 1,500 hours, the minimum experience for an airline co-pilot. So do that for the NEO aircraft. They won't do that because the airlines will shut down. They only, the regulator does not function as a regulator. He's functioning more as a facilitator.
Yes.
And that is something we have to correct. And I disagree with Mr. Vishwas when he says DGCA is, very experienced. No, I know the kind of cover-ups that have been taking place. So let us not go into that in the open television debate.
Well, I do agree with you, and on the point that you made about the stress that you're putting even on the pilots. Now, one of the earlier steps that was taken was to say that these specific aircraft that have the P&W engineered engine shouldn't fly on routes where the plane was over an hour away from a landing strip. I mean, what kind of a solution is this, that in case something begins to go wrong, you should be able to turn around quickly and land? So you're admitting there is a risk, and then you're giving us some kind of a half-baked solution and putting the onus on the pilot to ensure that he lands the plane safely, simply because you don't want the airlines and their business to suffer. Captain Panesar, isn't that what all of the solutions are pointing out at?
I would like to remind this gentleman who's talked of DGCA, late 90s Air Marshal State Committee report is clearly says the DGCA do not have competent people in the organization. Number two, they are the jury, they are the judges. They decide whatever they like, they can clear, they can exonerate anybody. This is the status of the DGCA. They do not know what is the cause of the incidents and all that. Either the engine is safe for 1 hour or for 3,000. What do they mean? Have they consulted an astrologer that they are given them 15 days extend, no engine will fail? I only pray, let the ministry come and take the responsibility because these organizations cannot take these decisions. They are worried about the balance sheet of the airline. Inconvenience to the passenger. Is inconvenience more important than the life of a passenger?
Well, if the DGCA is so hand in gloves with these airlines is acting on their behalf rather than acting on the behalf of the passengers and the citizens, then I think it is the time for the government to intervene. Dr. K. N. Acharya is on the phone line, a viewer calling in from Mumbai. Good evening. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I've been watching your debate for a long time, and you said that there is a risk to, passengers' life. Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, so we have got traffic rules. If you break the signal, you are fined. If you're using mobile, you are fined. Then why no such strict fines for the airplanes and the companies who are operating? Because if anything happens at a height of 27,000 feet, you cannot just land in a 1 minute and take it down. Just, okay, I'll just park down. So you are playing with the life of the passengers who are doing this for, they want to reach the destination. I think it should be imposed airlines these rules so that in future they don't dare to break this rule.
Yes.
And whether any airline, they should be, debarred from operating for a long time.
So, Dr. Acharya, the fact is that this is not even breaking a rule because DGCA is not implementing the rule. The DGCA is simply saying, okay, take 10 more days, take 15 more days. Let's figure out if there's any other solution. What is the safe route for these engines? Maybe we bring in more experienced pilots. Maybe, you use planes only for a certain amount of hours. These are all short-term, half-baked solutions. And I am sorry, if there are lives of people at stake, hundreds of passengers flying on these aircraft day after day, you simply cannot take this issue so lightly. We don't even know what is the real cause. We do know how it pans out with these heavy-duty vibrations and what it leads to. We do know that if things go drastically wrong beyond a certain point, then a disaster and a mishap is possible. Then why risk it? Why not ground these aircraft now? Why wait for the PNW to respond? Why wait for these airlines to ground these aircraft? The government needs to intervene now, take some action and ground these planes until the problem is fixed. I'm going to thank all of our panelists for joining us on this big debate.